Hey sweet humans, so this is a video just to explain a bit about what ecstatic breathwork is, what to expect, and then I'm going to go into a bit more of the science of really what's happening when we do this type of breathing. Know that if you're just wanting a little bit of a review, that'll be in the first few minutes, and then we're going to get into more of the nitty-gritty science after that. Ecstatic breathwork is essentially an active rhythmic breathing practice that uses conscious breath. It's often faster and deeper than normal. And this helps shift our state of awareness and to connect more directly with our body. The type of breath work that we do once we're in the kind of more effortful breathing is two rather quick inhales through the nose. We make a little O with our mouth and we do a forceful exhale through the mouth. So it looks like this. And we do that for a while. The continuous breath pattern does have an impact on our physiology that can temporarily bypass our habitual thinking and open more access to our sensations, to our emotions, and to subconscious material. At its core, ecstatic breathwork is a way of using breath as a tool. It can access deeper layers of ourself, and I mean like our big ass self, free from the ego. It can release held tension and emotion and increase our presence, our embodiment, our sense of okayness in the world. It's called ecstatic, not because it always feels blissful, but because it invites us to a more fuller range of aliveness, whatever that looks like for this moment in our lives. Now, I do want to name that ecstatic breathwork is not for everyone. This type of practice can be extremely activating and is not an intended space for trauma processing. And if you are currently feeling highly dysregulated and overwhelmed within your nervous system, in your daily life, or if you are in the middle of doing trauma processing with a therapist, this workshop or this practice may not be the most supportive environment for you at this time. However, if you are seeking more individualized therapeutic support within breathwork, please feel free to reach out to me. Both myself and I have a network of people that I can refer you to if that's something that you're curious about. Additionally, this practice includes periods of rather loud music. It's meant to be very immersive, and it can help support us in our emotional kind of expression and connection, and that's through sound and vibration. So if you know that you are highly sensitive to or become overly stimulated by auditory input, this experience, again, may not be supportive for your nervous system at this time. Because this practice impacts our physiology, and I'll be going into that a little bit more, it's also not recommended for people with significant cardiovascular issues, panic disorders, a history of seizures, or uncontrolled blood pressure. So let's get into a bit of the science. We're going to talk a little bit about CO2 and oxygen because that's really what we're playing with in our breath work. So what is your breath really doing? It is, oh, here's my scroller got lost. Okay. What is your breath really doing? When you are doing this type of breath work, you're engaging in a fast, deep, continuous breath. You're actually blowing off more oxygen, more CO2 faster than your body can produce it. So when we hold our breath, we actually don't have the urge to breathe because we need oxygen. It's because we are building up too much CO2 in our system, in our blood, and we need to release it. So when we are doing this breath work, we're releasing more CO2 than our body can produce, and this drops the amount of CO2 within our body. This drop in CO2 matters way more than you may realize. It has a pretty profound impact because CO2 plays this key role in regulating blood flow and oxygen delivery throughout our body. So when CO2 levels drop, our blood vessels constrict, particularly in the brain. And so our overall cerebral blood flow, so cerebral is brain, blood flow goes down. This flow decreases. And oxygen is actually released less effectively through our tissues. And this is known as the Bohr effect. So if you've heard of that, that's what that means. So paradoxically, even though we're breathing more, parts of our brain are actually receiving less oxygen. Specifically, our prefrontal cortex. So the brain, our prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that's right at the front, and then we go back, we have like the limbic system is back here. When we do this breath work, we reduce the amount of oxygen that's going to our prefrontal cortex. So let's talk about the prefrontal cortex. This part of our brain is responsible for our rational thinking, our planning, self-monitoring. It's very top-down control. This area is especially sensitive to changes in blood flow. So when CO2 drops and the blood flow shifts, activity in our prefrontal cortex decreases. And what does this mean? Our usual cognitive control starts to soften. So the inner editor, for me it's a critic, the part that's analyzing, organizing, managing, begins to quiet down. And at the same time, our more primitive, more emotional regions of the brain and the limbic system can become more active or more accessible. And what this feels like is that we have less ego, less thinking, and more feeling. We have more of an emotional release. Sometimes it can be quite intense. It can bring up very vivid imagery. Memories can come forward. Again, this is why if you're in the middle of trauma processing, it may not be supportive. And it can really have an altered sense of time, of sense of self. And in simple terms, you're temporarily turning down the brain's control center and turning up more of our raw embodied experience. So what does this have to do with our nervous system? This drop in CO2 also affects the body directly. So you may notice some tingling, especially in your hands, your feet. Sometimes you can feel a little dizzy. Know that as soon as you return to a normal breath, that will dissipate. And in some cases of ecstatic breath work or holotropic breathing, those workshops can be like 3 hours long. And when we're in this for a long period of time, sometimes we can have some muscle contractions. There can even be some of this like cramping through our fingers. So more of like this kind of like C shape happens with our hands. They are not dangerous at all, but they can be a little bit uncomfortable for us to be witnessing. And in a controlled setting, there's nothing to worry about. But they do tell us that something physiologically really is happening. There is this real shift and change. This isn't just energy that's moving. Our body chemistry is shifting. And so what does this mean for deeper healing? And there are a few working theories, and it's still being researched, it's still being debated, like all things in the hippy-dippy world. One theory is that it reduces this ego, this prefrontal control, which allows us to access suppressed emotions and memories, to process them and let them go. Another is that these changes in brain chemistry and blood flow create a kind of non-ordinary state similar to very deep meditation or psychedelic experiences. And the last is that there's strong activation in the body, which may help us kind of discharge stored tension and incomplete stress responses that we may have had. But there is an important to be clear that the science explains the mechanism, so we know kind of what's happening, but the therapeutic claims are still emerging and not fully established in clinical research. So my invitation is always, if this practice makes you more open and kind and curious, hell yeah, this is the practice for you. If it does not do those things, then nope, it's not for you, no problem. Plenty of other things to pick from. So that's the end of my spiel. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me. I would love to answer them. And if you want to get more involved, know that there are more ecstatic breath workshops coming up, quite a few this summer. I do my best to post them. I'm still learning Instagram, but you can also, if you want to be added to my newsletter, feel free to give me a message. And I really look forward to meeting you and having you experience this, and I hope that it supports you.